So I've had my Jeep Rubicon 392 for over a year now, and I'm just still not happy with it. Now today, I'm gonna go over it with you and tell you why. Now, since I bought my 2021 Rubicon 392, I have made quite a few videos on it, and I'm sure many of you have seen them in the past, but ever since I've got it, I've had maybe a certain idea in mind of what I want this thing to be. Now, throughout the last year, I've got different parts and pieces, thrown together, changed some different configurations, and went through a bunch of different setups. But at the end of the day, it's just nowhere close to where I want it to be. Now, I'm sure many of you that have Wranglers or just four-wheel drive off-road vehicles in general, you know exactly what feeling I'm going through. So I've added all these different parts, pieces, and accessories, and it's just nowhere close to where I want it to be yet. Now, with that being said, I do have some pretty high hopes for this thing and what it can really become, but as of yet, it seems like every chance I have to get the next big ticket item for this machine, I end up doing something else. Like here recently, I picked up a new motorcycle from Whistle & Diesel. And then a couple days ago, I got the new Grand Cherokee. So buying those massive parts and pieces just almost seems like a daunting task, especially whenever you have certain limitations financially and there are some other things that you want to get. With all that being said, some of the biggest downfalls are really my own fault. Some of the things that I've added and some of the things I didn't really think through whenever I was either installing them or just purchasing them in general. To start off, my absolute biggest grief that I have right now is just my exhaust. Now, you guys will know if you've watched any of my videos, I've went through 7, 8 different renditions for the exhaust setup on this thing. And for now, what I have going on is right under the Jeep where it separates to go to the actual tailpipe where the mid muffler and the actual muffler would be. I've got it cut off, so you can unbolt it simply, but I do have the extension going back almost to the rear axle. Now, where those two pieces meet, I'll show you where it's at. It's actually right there next to the cross member. And with that being said, it actually sits right here on the cross member the way I have the exhaust set up now. And it's because I've still got the X-Pops right here, and then I've got the dump all the way back there. I thought it would help with some of the drone noise if we could get it a little bit further back, but the biggest issue it's created is a vibration right there off of the cross member, and it's due in part to that hanger because the way that it's set up, it is a little bit closer than what it should be. And also, aside from just the actual setup and how it's sitting on the cross member, whenever I do go off-road, and if you guys watch the channel, you know I take it off-road quite a bit and beat on it, it seems like it creates just enough separation, especially in that certain position right there on top of the cross member. It just doesn't seem like I can get them torqued down enough to stay in place. So sometimes whenever I'm at a certain articulation or flex, it sounds like I have a little bit of an exhaust leak, and it has to be coming from that. So that's something I'm wanting to address really soon. Another thing I've ran into since fixing up this Jeep was adding on the Oracle flush mount taillights. Now, I did make a video on these and the install is pretty straightforward, but one of the things that I still haven't been able to figure out, simply because I haven't dedicated the time to finding a solution, is with these taillights, I actually don't have my blind spot monitors functional right now. Inside, I actually just turn them off, that way it doesn't give me a notification or anything like that. But as far as I know, and from what I can tell, this extra little trim piece, I would have to take out. And if I take this out, it's going to expose the white piece of the actual blind spot monitor. And that's just something I'm not willing to sacrifice to be able to have the blind spot monitor, because it just wouldn't look good. Now, tell me if I'm wrong, but some people haven't said anything about taking this piece out, and they didn't even say anything about that on the Oracle install video. So maybe mine just aren't reading right. I have checked to see if they're all hooked up. They are hooked up, they are reading, but I think this piece of plastic right here that you can remove is what's stopping it. And then not only that, whenever I was installing these, I guess maybe I didn't torque everything down absolutely as tight as I could. So you can see I've got just a little bit of movement here on this tail light. And it's not enough to make a rattle, a noise, or anything like that. It's just enough to know that you have a little bit of play in this, and it really bothers me. I'm sure it'd be something simple as far as just taking it back out and torquing it all down, because the other side's perfectly fine, but I honestly just haven't had the time to dedicate to that. Now, aside from that simple stuff, the only big issue I've actually ran into, which was more my fault than anything as well, is actually the battery draining itself. So if you guys watched one of my previous videos, I went over the fact that this Jeep continues to die because I don't drive it every day. It does sit for about a week or so at a time. And with that, it just kept dying and I couldn't figure out why. So I asked you guys and you actually gave me some pretty good answers. and what it ended up being was the taser. So with the taser, I needed to do a full reboot and sleep cycle. And since then, it's actually been working pretty well. I haven't hooked it back up to a battery tender or anything like that, so it's been working well so far. That's something I still need to update the firmware on. Whenever you buy these tasers, you're actually supposed to go to their website and download the new firmware, because you never know how long they've been sitting or when they were actually produced. And with mine, I guess all the bugs haven't been figured out on it yet. I definitely need to download the new firmware, but in all honesty, that's just another thing that I honestly don't consider whenever I do have the time to do it. I just decide to do something else. So that's something I need to fix up. And also there's some other features that it'll unlock, not just some bugs that they fixed. As far as I know, if I download the new firmware, I'll also be able to get the 392 icon to pop up on the dash instead of it just saying Rubicon whenever you turn it on. Now, whenever I first got this Jeep, it just popped up Wrangler or Jeep, I can't remember. But it didn't even say Rubicon like my old Rubicon did from 2020. But sure enough, that's something we need to do. And that's just a little thing that adds to all the little issues to make it a little bit more annoying than it should be. Talking about all the recent additions in terms of the vehicles, motorcycles, that kind of stuff we've added, it's also right around the holidays. And of course, I've been buying baby some pretty cool stuff. But that's kind of set me back on the twin turbo kit that I've wanted to do. With the twin turbo kit that I'm going to do, the only real option is to get a couple different variations of the turbo kit and try to make it your own on this Rubicon 392. There's not a standalone kit for everything, including the turbos, tune, cooling, everything like that. You're definitely going to have to piece together a few different kits to make it work. Then you're also going to have to find someone to do the right tune on it. And then that's not even including the installation. So that's something that I'm definitely going to have to buy and be ready to buy more parts. So it's definitely going to cost more than whatever I'm thinking. May not be much more, but it's definitely going to be more nevertheless. So I'm not really sure if that's something I'm wanting to tackle exactly right now. So I do have some plans for things I want to add to get the Jeep at least to where I'd want it for now. And of course, with this Jeep, I've told you guys before, it's something I plan on keeping for an extremely long time. So I'm not really afraid of doing a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. But for now, one of my biggest things I was thinking about is, instead of going ahead and getting Dana 60s with 513s or maybe even 488s for now, with the setup we have now, it's just stock axles, the Dana 44 wide track. They're actually working extremely well. I did run the same axles except for the front. They have CVs now. I ran those on my 2020 Rubicon in the past. Of course, it just had the 3.6, but I was running the 14 gears and the 40 by 1550s on 20 by 12s and absolutely beat that thing and never had a single issue. So that kind of makes me wonder if I could just leave these on for a little bit longer. If I do I need to go ahead and re-gear? Because with the current setup, it's honestly working fine. It would be nice to go ahead and have the 456 gears with this current setup on the 38 1550s. I think it would definitely help, not just in terms of acceleration and speed, but also just the day-to-day performance and the off-road capabilities. It'd really enhance everything on this Jeep and pull it together. But buying new gears for axles I plan to take out is just something that seems a little bit crazy. But if I do plan on keeping this for at least maybe 6 months with this configuration, it would make sense. Another thing I'll be adding relatively soon is going to be some products from AFE. Now from them, they've actually got a cold air intake you can run with the Hydro Guide system, and it's been pretty hard to find any cold air intakes you can use with the Hydro Guide system. Of course, it increases the performance a little bit too, and it's got to sound a little bit better. Definitely let the 6.4 breathe. And then to go beyond that, I believe they have a hooker exhaust kit is what it's called. An extremely similar setup as to what I'm running right now, but I know all of it, the fit and finish would be quite a bit nicer. It does have a small muffler in it too, so it'll get rid of at least a little bit of the interior drone, and then it dumps in a very similar spot. So with that, it would just be a cleaner look, and I'm sure with the exhaust hangers they have set up with it and the fitment, it would all just work quite a bit better than what we're running now. Then continuing on the exhaust trend, the AFE also has a set of short tube headers that we could run on this thing. That would definitely open up this 6.4 quite a bit as well. I think with the cold air intake, the short tube headers, as well as that hooker exhaust, it would really complement the 6.4 pretty good. And then we could find a tune to run for now, because like I have said, it seems kind of pointless to get a crazy tune whenever we're going to be twin turbocharging it. But like I say, if you're going to run it any length of time, maybe even 6 months or more, then I could probably justify spending $1,000, $1,500 on a nice tune. That way we can get everything working properly and get some pretty good performance for now. And then of course, just on the exterior, There are some things I'm wanting to add. Of course, we need to do some armor. We're gonna have to add a winch. I'm probably gonna go ahead and get one of the Warren winches I can throw in this stock bumper and then run on an ADD or an Addictive Desert Designs front bumper. I'm not sure which ones I'm wanting to go with, but definitely probably gonna go with something ADD. Same thing for the rear and probably the fenders as well. All the armor I'd like to match this time. I really haven't ever done one of my own personal Jeeps with all matching armor from the same brand. I usually get different parts and pieces from other manufacturers that I think look good together. But ADD at this point, they definitely make some great products that all go together really well. They're just pretty expensive. So that's one of the things that's kind of held me back on that. Instead of just going on eBay or Amazon and grabbing some fenders and armor this time, I really wanted to wait and get the right stuff that I think will complement the Jeep well, because I just don't want to throw all kinds of cheap stuff on this 392. Being what it is, it just doesn't make sense this time. As you guys can tell, this thing stays pretty nasty. The days I do take it out, I usually get it a little bit nasty, and I can't really help that. And more times than not, whenever I have the time to take it out and enjoy it, I don't have the time to clean it. I would like to get some exterior protective film, like the matte PPF. I think the matte PPF would definitely make this thing stand out and be pretty unique, especially for the color that it's in. But also it would protect it a little bit off-road, because we do run through a lot of branches, a lot of trees, a lot of brush, and it mars up this paint pretty easily. There's already plenty of scratches all over it, but I think if we do get a paint correction and then the matte PPF now, it should stay in pretty good shape underneath it, at least for a little while. And that matte PPF, if you guys haven't seen it, you gotta check it out. It looks pretty cool. But then again, it is pretty expensive too, just like everything else that we need to add. Now, if you guys didn't catch it in my last video, I have partnered up with Last Fit to do a giveaway with you guys for this holiday season, and it's going to end on the 30th of November. We started on the 24th, the day of Thanksgiving, and there honestly hasn't been that many people entered. So the giveaway is essentially just some LED light pods like you guys have probably already seen me install on this Rubicon 392. They're a great look, and they really complement any kind of Wrangler or off-road machine pretty well. All you have to do to get entered is comment one thing you're thankful for this holiday season, like the video, and also be subscribed to the channel. If you want, you can send a screenshot of it to my Instagram at GodspeedZRZ, just to make sure I do get the notification or get your name into the drawing, because we all know that YouTube will hide or at least delete some comments. And on December 1st, I'm going to do a drawing and announce the winner. So it's a really short giveaway, and since it is so short, LastFit did send me a discount code that you guys can use on their website at lastfit.com. And with that, it's Godspeed20, no spaces, nothing like that. You can use it at checkout and get 20% off. They're having some massive Black Friday sales right now, and you can add that. Once you add it to your cart and go to checkout, use the code Godspeed20 to get an extra 20% off. So just to break down what I think I'm going to add extremely soon, we're going to get all the AFE gear. So we're going to get the short tube headers, we're going to get the hooker exhaust, as well as the cold air intake that works with the HydroGuide system. We're probably going to go ahead and at least get the 456 gears installed in these Dana 44s, because I think we'll run this setup at least for a little bit longer. And then of course we'll do the Dana 60s and the twin turbos and stuff a little bit later. But for now, I honestly just can't justify it. So we'll be doing that stuff pretty soon, and then we'll go ahead and just finish up the armor and cosmetics. I'd like to go ahead and get the front bumper, rear bumper. Of course, we'll get the fenders as well. And with some high clearance fenders, it'll open up that wheel well quite a bit. So whenever we do go to the bigger axles and end up running some coilovers, we'll definitely be able to throw some bigger tires, maybe like 43s or something like that. And then we'll go ahead and do the 513s in the Dana 60s. But for now, basically just focusing on some of the more basic stuff. That way we can get it all done, all ready, and prepared for the next step whenever the time for that twin turbo kit does come. And like I've said before, this is definitely a build I'm planning on keeping for an extremely long time, so I'm not as afraid to go through this in phases. I do enjoy going through the phases of it. You've already seen it stock, you've seen it on 35s with a couple different accessories, you've seen it on 38 1550s, no lift. So we'll just continue that trend and see what all we can make of it. But that's going to wrap it up for today. If you guys haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think and let me know what you want to see next. But until next time, Godspeed.